Okay. Boa noite a todos. Good evening. Nós vamos dar início então ao debate sobre o rendimento básico incondicional. A maioria dos que estão aqui até já sabem o que é, alguns não sabem, e quem não sabe pode colocar as questões que quiser.
Quem é que não sabe o que é?
Já agora, quem é que não sabe o que é? O 10º final, 10 aqui tem. Acho que toda a gente conhece.
Quem quer um segundo?
Okay, then Robert take the word. Não vou utilizar o microfone. Então, muito obrigado a todos, muito obrigado a ti por ter chamado a iniciativa. Podemos notificar este tipo de iniciativa. Ora bem, nós já todos aqui sabemos o que é o rendimento incondicional, por isso estamos um bocadinho de família. Podemos debater sobre as razões a favor e contra o rendimento incondicional, mas talvez seja também muito interessante aproveitarmos a presença de um dos organizadores da Iniciativa Cidadã Europeia a favor do rendimento incondicional, que é o Stanislas Jourdan. O Stan percebe inglês, portanto talvez possamos falar em inglês. Alguém? Quem é que não percebe inglês aqui? Então, eu sugiro isto, como já temos todos mais ou menos convencidos que isto é um belo ideal, vamos então transformar a nossa reunião numa reunião mais estratégica sobre aquilo que nós poderíamos fazer para aumentar os votos europeus e para difundir esta ideia capital. So I'm going to speak in English now, okay? I like to stand to take this opportunity to talk with us about your experience of the European initiative and perhaps tell us how you see things in the future and what you think would be best for us as a Portuguese group to do. So, yeah. I've already done it, and I realized that all of us know what basic income is, all of us know about the European initiative, but we need some guidance about what to do. So perhaps you could just introduce yourself. What have you done for the last 6 months, and then we can talk about what you do.
Excuse me, it's help. It helps.
Okay, then this will be an introduction talk, but thanks for the opportunity. I'm happy doing my thing because I started to get interested about basic income basically years ago, but everything went very fast for me because I've been very active in France trying to build the movement, and then I heard about the European initiative, so I also participated into the preparation of the European campaign for basic income. And since then, I've been more and more involved, and I've been now for almost 6 months traveling in Europe to meet the different networks in each country and trying to coordinate different actions and trying to help different groups to go to the next level of activism, next level of awareness of basic income. So that's for the general idea, the general thing about my activity right now. I'm traveling. I'm also part of a WeShare, which is a movement about the sharing economy. And I must say that being part of the movement has been really helping me do that, but I'll explain more about it later. And so when it was 1 year ago, 1.5 years ago, I was active in France, trying to do my best to write about basic income, because I used to be a journalist as well, so I was writing, and people started to identify me as a guy who was promoting it. And 1.5 years ago, I heard about the idea of the European campaign, the European Citizen Initiative. And at that moment, in France, the movement was really disparate. It means that there were a couple of groups, different groups, promoting basic income on their own, but they were not at all cooperating with each other. So when we started to prepare the European Citizen Initiative, there was a meeting in Brussels with 50 participants from all over Europe, except Portugal at the time. But Roberto fixed that. So at that time, I came back from Brussels and I was with another French activist. And we thought, okay, we're going to do this campaign, but in France, this is not organized at all. There is no common communication. There's nothing. So what we thought is that the first step we need to do is set up a new website that would be like a portal, the information website for basic income. It would not be, it was not, okay, first let's do an association or something. It was just, okay, let's try to gather all the different content we have, gather all the different groups that are active, just have them indexed somewhere, and start informing the people. And that's what we did. So I talked with the different groups to ask them if they want to be part of this new website. And then we needed some money, so we asked the community to provide us, and in 3 days we had 3 euros. So the first step of the empowering to see that, this direction from the movement. And then we started the website, and at that moment what was really important in the success of the website was that we had a collaboration between people who are experts of the basic income, who have the knowledge, who have been writing about it, who have been writing theses or books, and also had people who liked to blog, to write on the internet. We had people like me who had a background in journalism, and we had just some people who just, for example, we have a guy from he's living in Germany, living in Germany, so he would inform us about what's going on in Germany. And gradually we would cooperate with each other just to inform the people. And we built it's sort of a magazine on basic income. And that was the whole starting point, because from this, the people would notice the website, they would visit the website, and at the same time, at some point they would contact us. They would say, okay, what can I do to help? Or is there a local group? Is there a group in my city to promote the idea? And gradually, we started to not only to inform the people, but to put the word into practice. So at some point, for example, we launched a map where we had all the groups that were already formed, and every time there was a new group who contacted us, or just an individual who contacted us, we talked with them, and at some point we would create a Facebook group maybe, and we would then publish on the Facebook page, okay, look, there's a new Facebook group. Everyone living in Lyon or in Marseille, you can join it, it's here. And that way, people started not only to think about the idea, but also to talk about other people, talk with other people locally, and then obviously at some point they would ask themselves, okay, what can we do? Can we organize an event? Can we organize a conference? Something. So it all started like this, very organically. And now, only in April this year, we created an association, but it came afterwards. And the idea with the association is not to create a movement, it already exists. But the idea is that with this formal status, now we can more easily ask for money to finance our activities, and we can also do some more lobbying, because it's easier to do lobbying when you have when you are president or co-president of a formal association. So that's what we are doing now. So that's for the French version. Now I've been since February. I've been in Belgium, UK, Greece, Portugal, now Spain. I've been in Italy a little bit before as well, and Germany and Switzerland. And all these countries, the situation is very different. I don't know what to say exactly. But everywhere I went, what is clear is that there is a stronger and stronger interest in the idea. Many people tell me, you know, in UK it's hopeless. There's nothing we can do because of this reason. And in Germany, it's desperate as well because of this, because of the government of Merkel. In Greece, it's impossible because we have the Troika. In Spain, it's impossible because I don't know. You know, everyone is trying to find an excuse to think that in its country it's more difficult than elsewhere. And I truly believe it's not true, because even in France, where people because I'm from France, people usually tell me, but you know, it's easier for you because you already have a huge welfare system and blah blah blah. It's not true actually. In France, people will say to us, you already have a lot of welfare. Why do you want more welfare? You know? So you have the counter argument. In Greece, they will say it's impossible because we don't have any welfare. And in France, the people against this argument say the opposite. We already have too much welfare. So I really think that there is no justification for not thinking it's possible to advocate for racism in each country. For sure, the situations are different, but every problem is also an opportunity. Every counter-argument, every objection to racism is at the same time an argument against, in favor, I mean. Of course, the question of the financing part, how to finance it, where does the money come from? That's the question that, yeah, I'm not sure it's the hardest, but maybe in countries like Greece, it's really a problem because Greece cannot fund itself. But at the same time, obviously, we are doing a European campaign because we believe that there should be actually a redistribution in Europe. So that's part of the answer. But yeah, the question of financing is really an important one. Not for everyone, though. I believe there are some certain types of people, mostly the scientific-minded people. Really, they like to see the numbers. So that's. But apart from that, I don't know. Most of the objections are, in the end, are more, it's moral values against the basic income. It's the idea that it's more ethical to give people money without asking for anything back. That's the stronger one. I mean, there are many answers, but I think the stronger one is philosophical, and it comes back to what people say in the first place, like Thomas Paine was a philosopher. He was in France at the moment of the revolution in France, and he said some interesting stuff. One was, at the moment we just achieved the revolution at the French Assembly, he said, there's no democracy, no, there's no citizenship without income, which means that citizens cannot fully exercise their citizenship, they can participate in democracy if they don't have also an economic right, ensuring that they can participate in income. And further, he also elaborated the theory that was a critique of private property, but a rational critique. It was not Marxist. It was just saying, at some point, if you have a limited piece of land and there are more people, obviously there's going to be a concentration of private property. So we should compensate these private property rights with a basic income. And the justification behind it is also the fact that all our wealth, the current wealth we have in modern countries like France and Portugal, we have so much wealth, but it's not our own merit that we are so rich. It's the merit of our ancestors. If we have such an elaborated language as English and Portuguese, if we have so many infrastructures, it's because our ancestors paid for it or conveyed it. If we have the internet, it's not because if we have Facebook, it's not because Mark Zuckerberg is brilliant, smart. No, it's basically just grab many elements, many items from the public domain and just make something slightly better. But he didn't. Mark Zuckerberg didn't invent processor, he didn't invent electricity, he didn't invent all the protocols of the internet like HTTP or he didn't invent anything regarding to the all wealth our ancestors have been creating. So I think to come back to your question, the argument of it's not moral to pay people money. It's not moral either to let people get so rich with the creation of other people, which are not. There are many people who built the internet. He died without money. He died very poor, and that's actually a common situation in also many artists, which books or arts are very famous now, and people are making money from this. At the time they made this artistic creation, they were poor. So, just to summarize, it's about considering, acknowledging that there is a wealth that doesn't belong to anyone. And even though we try, for example, at the patents, try to reward the people who created something, but we all know it doesn't work really well. So, basic income is all about understanding that there's a share of the wealth that it's impossible to retrieve the creator of this wealth. We just don't know who it is, and if we know who is this person, maybe he's dead. So here we have a part of the creation of value that must be common, that must be divided to everyone.
I agree, but you also said your reply. Can you speak loud?
Yeah, the first part of your reply, you said that to have political citizenship, to have political participation, we need economic power. But that was, I guess, Thomas Paine's reply. But actually, international basic income doesn't say that you need to have political participation. So the question still holds, how can you give people money without asking at least to have some kind of political participation? That's my question. Anyone has a reply? You may not ask, but at least in my mind it is implied that you expect people that they have the freedom to participate. Some, I was going to say many, but at least some will. At least in those studies that they did testing basic income in poor areas in Brazil, Canada, and India. One of the common conclusions was that not many people stayed at home and did nothing. It was actually, most people were very active, besides the other benefits of children in school and less people in the hospital. Therefore, should we explicitly ask, you now have the right to contribute to society. You can contribute as well as you want. Please do. I don't know. But it is implied. But it is implied, isn't it? You really expect that if people have freedom and time, they no longer are tired from the 8 to 5 job, then they will participate. They will contribute.
Well, let's just take it yes. So the problem still remains. You could just say, so what? Yeah, you should hit it. If they don't want to participate,
yeah, no, I guess that I agree with you. It's true that the empirical studies show that people do participate. But my question is more a principal question. Could we still justify basic income if we don't ask anything in return? And then I believe that the answer is the second part of your reply, when you said that in any case we don't really know who contributes to wealth. This belongs, the earth belongs to everyone, and everyone should have their share. What do you think about that, Michele?
I'm not sure about what I think about this. I have a question. I'm speaking with my friends sometimes, and I have a friend that is deeply liberal, I think, and so he believes in Darwinism. And so his quote is like, yeah, the weak should die, so why setting up a basic income? So, yeah, the weak should die. That this is Darwinism. That's how human beings appear on the earth. Okay? And so, yeah, how it works, it's the strong win and the weak die. And the basic income, it's totally against that. And I don't agree with him, but it's difficult to argue. And so if you have a good argument that I can expose to him, I would be glad.
The best argument comes with Peter Singer.
Peter Singer, the animal rights defender, has this very nice small book called Darwinian Left. And he says that actually Darwinism is a left thing, not a right thing. So you should give him that book. I understand, but it's a pure ideology. What people say, they say Darwinism is about the environment.
As a biologist, Darwin said, what Darwin said is, the fit will survive, the less fit will disappear, not the weak, or not the spirit.
Exactly. Fitting is a
Concept large enough to include the basic income, right?
What if you, by giving them money, they become less good? They can educate themselves if they have money. If they don't, they can't. They will try to find a job as quickly as possible. They won't care about the education when they have when they only think about their income. They don't think about education. Normally, Darwin, for example, was rich. His family was rich. That's why he got time to start science. If people that don't have money, they don't go for education. They can get better without money, I think. And if they can't find a job or anything else, they'll try to find money. But they need the money first to become better. I think it kind of goes against. By giving them money, I think it's a better way.
I just remembered that the argument, you could make an argument that is completely not related to Darwinism or someone being more fit than the other, which is we as a human family become fitter if more members of its family are more fit, basically, by providing many people the resources to improve themselves. Become more fit. You know, let's look at that. And since we expect them to participate and many good things entering the commons, many people have time to invent things. Awesome. But we as humans will be more likely to survive.
I agree with you, but what if, like at the monkey time, just before human being, you would have given them food for free for every day? What do you think would have happened?
Do you know the monkeys? No, those monkeys that do a lot of sex. What's the name of them? There you go. There's an example of monkeys who have a lot of food most of the time. And they evolved in that sense. That's different social hierarchies than the usual baboons.
Now, regarding social Darwinism, I'd just like to point out that we don't live in the jungle. We live in human societies. There's no reason why we should follow the laws of the jungle in human societies. That's basically.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm just looking for an argument. I think you would agree with the bonobo story.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that also the definition of being fit, I mean, has changed over the years, right? So with basic income, we would actually give people a chance to do other kind of behaviors which fit more into society than capitalism right now. Like, for example, right now, it's a tech guy, which fits, let's say, you know, but soon they will just eat their jobs with even more technology, so we need more options that fit better, which we will only create when we start kind of making, giving people the chance to get, to find more options.
I was reading a short essay by John Maynard Keynes today that relates to what we were saying about. Basically, his idea, it's very philosophical, although Keynes is known mostly as an economist. Basically, Keynes' idea of our relation to wealth and accumulation is that it's not really nice. The nice thing about us that we discard this kind of capitalist ethics that we must create and accumulate capital. But it's necessary to improve our technology and our science. But then at a certain point, we will be able to produce so much that this sort of thing will appear for what it is, a sort of perversion. I mean, it says the person that is always posticipating the enjoyment. He tells a story about a man that goes to a professor asking his money, and the professor says, a creditor, and the professor says to the creditor, if you come next year, I will give you twice as much. Don't you like this idea of getting twice as much? And so the man comes back. And then someone asks the professor, did you ever give him back the money? He said, no, I will tell him this until he dies. Because the idea of getting more and more money will allow him to live. And Keynes said, when we will have enough wealth to fulfill our needs, we will see that this is something crazy. But at our time, we must be very careful saying this, because we need this drive, accumulation, to improve our society. So, the real question one can ask is, are we there yet? And I want to know your view about this. Are we at the point in which this capitalist morality of, you're good, not if you enjoy your life for the goals, but if you increase the means, always looking at the future, accumulating capital. Capital is just a means for a future good. So are we there yet? Can we move to the next stage in which we think about enjoying the benefits of the capital we have accumulated? That's it.
Well, I will first say something and then jump on the issue, this topic. I'll tell you something. I've stopped trying to convince people. I don't have time for that. There are certain type of people who never get convinced until the day it actually exists. It's like Saint Thomas, who, it's the time is running out. We're in times of crisis, and there are so many problems. And if we want to convince everyone, it's not just possible. What we have to do instead is spend time with the one who are already convinced and want to actually do their best to make it happen. That's actually at least I'm not saying don't speak to your friends and trying to, to make them think about it. Of course, I'm doing that all day as well. But, as well, when I first heard of Basic Income, I was still a student in a business school with this, this French Grand École and these kind of people who are actually privileged, but they don't know it. And they don't think that, okay, anyway, it's not important, but, these kind of people who are not the easiest ones to convince. And I had nights, hours and hours of arguments with them. I never convinced them with rational arguments. I even tried the irrational ones, but didn't work either. What works, at some point, but it was totally not my strategy or something else, no? Just at some point, like 1 year later, I didn't discuss with these people for a while, and then I met them again, and they were telling me, oh, we did this conference here, and oh, I saw this article, and oh, you are traveling now? And they didn't tell me they were convinced or anything, but at least they were getting curious. Because I had arguments with them, I was really trying to understand why they think differently, but most of all because I was doing action. I was doing something, and I was doing it with more and more people around me. And that, I think, is the thing that is the most convincing thing ever, is to build a movement. Is to grow and grow, to have more people overcoming their fears, overcoming the risk of appearing like someone crazy who has a stupid idea of giving money to everyone. And the more we get confidence in ourselves, the more we're actually convincing in the end. So that would be how I know that's the best argument to your friend, but I would say don't over push it. Just get him think about it a little bit. Try to change his perception of society, maybe, and that will be a small victory. And maybe in 2 years he will finally say, it's not so bad. It happened to me many times. Now about
because I think your friend's objection is really bad. It has nothing to do with interesting objections. I just want to say that I'm also totally convinced about rationality of basic income, so I get a bit tired of it. I don't really feel like talking about it. But I agree that theoretically there are some interesting objections. And if you can get people out of the silly objections and try to ask the good objections, that is a progress. So that's worth trying to do. And so we need to talk about it between ourselves. We have to know the good objections and the bad ones. For example, you said that would be a very good reply to a single objection. Okay, we live in society. Who cares about Darwin? It's something different. Or maybe your reply to would be good. So still, we should admit that there are some good objections. So,
absolutely, that would make sense, but at some point, this is the time in which we are living. At the point, the question is not, is decision good or bad? It's also about, okay, if it's bad according to you, then what's your idea? What's your plan to actually save the world? I mean, because we are really going in the wrong direction right now. So you may disagree on decision, but at least give me an idea of something that could be better. And if you disagree, at least don't let me believe it, you know? Then about what you said, it's really interesting, and I totally agree. And that's why also my activity with WeShare comes in the game, because in WeShare we're a community of people who believe in the sharing economy, who believe in the concept of open source, of the peer-to-peer, and we basically believe that we live in a post-scarcity economy. That means that we have achieved a level of development that is incredibly big, and it's just an absurdity that we waste so much food, that we waste so much material, so much resources, and it's just absurd that we still live in this conception of work as employment, not as an activity, a social useful activity. So I don't know what to say more than that. I mean, I just think that we could do so much more if instead of competition, we would be in a world of co-competition or cooperation or sharing. I mean, we all know that we waste so much food even as ourselves, we waste a lot of food, and we also produce food in a way that it's really bad. We do so many things wrong because we have this conception of profit and profit seeking and competition. We could do so much better with cooperation. So that's just some insight on just to go along with your thoughts. I don't know if you agree or
I just want to ask you something that I read a lot, especially in Facebook, the group of basic income. Many people ask, where did you find the money to provide the basic income to all European citizens? Especially, I'm talking because people discuss particularly the Portuguese situation. We are in the middle of economic crisis. We have now a political crisis also. And many people try to make sense to find where we get what money to pay the basic income. And that doubt make the persons doubt that could be any time reality, at least in Portugal.
I'm also interested in your views about market finance. Just a small comments about Are We There Yet? The BBC documentary Century of Self describes the invention of marketing, per se, and the need marketing was invented because we were producing too much and people needed to consume more. So ever since that time, which was in the beginning of this century, 100 years ago, yes, we already are there. Okay.
So about the financing. So first there is the rational answer, saying, look, we already have this system, very bureaucratic, very inefficient. For instance, in France, it has been recognized, we have a percentage of taxation at almost 50%, right? So we have 50% of the GDP, the wealth, the monetized wealth, that is being somehow taken to someone and distributed to another one that we don't really know how and why. So first of all, the rational answer is, okay, let's rationalize this, let's simplify, and let's give everyone a unique payment instead of a opaque, hazardous redistribution. Okay? That's the first thing. The second thing, obviously, is also, okay, but why are we agreeing about how to finance a basic loan where we don't even ask ourselves how much money we give to the military investment? We never agree about how much money we spend, I don't know, for nuclear power or whatever, you know, this sort of things. So the second part of that is about the political will. Because when you talk about money, you actually talk about a transaction system that is owned by private organizations, which are named banks. And the banks actually, when they finance the economy, you know, you usually there's this picture of, okay, when a bank do a loan to buy, so that you can buy a house, or to companies so that you can start a business, they're usually told this picture of, okay, you have savers, you have people who have money in the bank, they took that money and they lend to the business, or to the buyer who wants the man who wants to own a house. That's not true. The bank issue money when they issue credit. That's just an accounting system that enables that. I won't go too much into details, but basically the idea here is that our money system is basically controlled, owned by private firms and the banking system as a whole. And what the banking system does, by issuing the credits, what they do is they recognize what is valuable or not in the economy. When they lend you money to buy a house or a car or for business, they say to you, okay, what you have here, the business plan, okay, this adds value for me. But you know, the banking system is, in terms of power, it's huge, but in terms of intention, in terms of how many people are working for that, very few. So what I want to explain here is that in the end, because we have a centralized monetary system which relies on privatized industry, this concentration of power decides what is valuable or not in the economy. And of course, the criteria are profit, even before anything else. So this system is, in a large part, responsible of our economy, what's the direction of our economy, because obviously all the investment we do is driven by the idea of the interest of the profit, not the idea of social usefulness. And obviously basic income is trying to change that. The idea of basic income is to recognize that there are other values other than profit. There are non-marketable activities that are still providing useful stuff for the society.
Yes. No, I'm not an economist, so please excuse me if what I'm going to say is it contains a lot of mistakes or it's very naive. So imagine, you know, there is no Anglo-America and the people in this room tell Mr. Draghi what to do. A very easy way to found a basic income would be to tell the European Central Bank just print that money and give it to the people. Now, if you do this, and technically it could be done in 1 second, just changing numbers in the computers. That's all it's needed. Now, if you do that, one could think, what will be the consequence? The prices of the things will go up, and then nothing will have changed at the end.
I'd just like to give a very simple ideological reply to your question, because it's complicated. When people ask you how it finance, you can reply in a rhetorical way, just say, hey, wait a minute, don't we have enough money to allow everyone to live with dignity? That would be strange. Just to block it.
Okay. So about the inflation question. It's a difficult one because first of all, many people don't really understand what is inflation. I'm not saying that's your case, but I'm just I've been experimenting a lot of misunderstanding about inflation. People usually think inflation arises when you have an increase of prices. Okay, that's the definition of no! Inflation is when you have an increase of money supply. Okay? So that's what we are referring to. But I just want to make it first clear that there's one thing we don't consider with inflation is that your wage is a price in the market. How much you are getting paid is a price in the market. But is it bad if the price of the labor is increasing? Obviously not. You like it when you have an increase in your pay bill, right? So just to put some context, because, okay, without talking about basic income so far, you have, for example, 10% inflation, but what if your salary, the wage is getting higher by 15%? You are still happy, right? Because you gain 5% difference. So that's the first answer with the basic income, is that the question is not, do prices rise? The question is, do my income rise more than inflation? And in society, whose income will rise more than the inflation? And the thing is that if you have a low income, if you are the basic, if you have the minimum salary plus the basic income, obviously the basic income will help you. You have a boost in your purchase power. But if you are very rich, if you have 1 million in the bank and you have 5% of inflation, you lose this 5%. And the basic income you get, it just disappears with the taxation. So that's the first answer. But the deeper one is when we talk about the ECB, it's interesting because the ECB, they've been telling us for 10 years now that the inflation in the Eurozone is 2%. Okay, first of all, it's not 2% everywhere. In some countries it's 3%. Some other countries like Germany is like 1%. But they will never tell you that. For the ECB, the Eurozone is a unique country, you know? At least the statistic that this is what they are telling you. And of course this leads to many problems, like the bankruptcy of the banks in other countries. But why I'm talking about ECB? Because the ECB will tell you there's 2% inflation. Okay. But they will never tell you that there's been an increase of the housing prices by 10% during 10 years everywhere in Europe. They never told you that. But it's still inflation. But they don't tell you it's not calculated as inflation. But when you have an increase of property assets, when the building here costs 2 million instead of 1, of course this has an effect on the rent. But this is not counting an inflation, just because of statistics, not fucking statistics. Now, why has the housing bubble occurred? Why the rent, why the private property has increased? and why we had the subprime bubble, the subprime crisis in the US. Because of what I was just referring before, because of the banking system and how it works. Because with the system of the banks right now, they can issue credit just like this. They don't need the funds before, they're creating the funds that they lend to you. And they like it. They like to invest in housing because if you get bankrupt, at least they can own the house afterwards. And actually, it's terrible. I was just in Spain. It's terrible because they have a law that says that if you cannot pay anymore your mortgage, not only you lose possession of your house, but you still have to pay the debt. So they like it. Obviously, they love it. They love to make people indebted to buy a house because they are sure that the value is there, supposedly. So the banks have allowed a big increase of the money supply. They have allowed the money mass, the monetary mass to increase to double in certain countries. And they have caused inflation, but they don't tell you. So just to say that, first, the basic income might increase inflation, but how about the basic income you get, which is a compensation of the inflation actually? And how about the inflation that already exists, that we don't think about too much? And finally, the ending point is that, as I was saying just before, the question in money is how we create money, and what do we recognize as value, and if we recognize that something has value, how do we monetize it? And in the current system, we do monetize the things that get more money for the banks. And in a basic income world, or in a better world, the question is what would we like to consider as valuable? And my answer would be, first of all, what has much more value than anything else is humans.
So you still agree that what inflation in this scenario basically you still agree that we won't create inflation. There's no scenario where the basic income.
So there is another subject I'm really interested too. So it's parallel money. Okay, so we are together. Like instead of exchanging these pieces of paper, we exchange other pieces of paper. Okay, we put value on it. It's okay. And there are some experiences that are already working and prove a lot, like in Brazil or in Africa. So it's basically some places where economy, as we think about it, are really destroyed. And banks don't give them confidence, so they don't lend them money, so there is no money there. You know, these places more or less. And so some associations come there, and they say, okay, so we will give you money, it's this piece of paper, it's another value. Okay, of course you cannot buy DVD player, but what the fuck, you don't need that. You just need to. And actually, the result of this kind of experience, the economy is starting again. And this is not the economy of consumerism, but it's about exchanging services. And the community is working. Economy is not working. We don't care, it's GDP. But the community is working and services are exchanging and so on. Think about it, like tomorrow, if the money doesn't exist anymore, you will still need to go and buy your bread, and this guy will need to buy flour, and this guy will, and so on, and it will work. So, it's just, as you said, the purpose of the money. Is it to consume DVD player, or is it to exchange services between us? And there is one money I really love, and the basic principle it's called self, in French it's soul. The basic principle of this money is 1 hour of my time for the same price as 1 hour of your time. And so it's local communities are working like this, and it's working. So if you create this kind of money, there will be no inflation.
Not what about the tax? Because you are not
What about the tax-paying system? Because if you exchange services, probably they are not to be taxable to government. I know in France of a village which has been quite a changes in 20 years, and it was kind of tolerated by the government as a kind of random experience that is happening. But, the problem is always that one. You are not only a small community, but you are a whole country. How do you conceive on a long-term basis and on a wide territory exercise? How do you conceive this? How can a state function without taxes? How is common good going to be generated? How do you say this? Yes, how is it going to be governed on a broad way, like hospitals, education, social welfare, everything. You live in a society which goes in a certain way. Are you to close the society and recreate it from the ground, or how can you adapt a system that is now working and that we've been all contributing to for hundreds of years? How do you
May I answer the question? Okay.
This was just one question. I have some more.
I know nothing about this.
I arrived here, I know nothing about this, I arrived here late. My name is Bob. Hello. But what I understand is the following. I understand here there's a will to try to conceive a society which is different from what I know. There's a will, there are facts around us that will say this cannot be it. We're supposed to be civilized and look around us. Many of us say this is not it. And then you will because know about this, but I don't know that the point is how we're gonna pay taxes. Because we know, or I think we all think here, that we cannot change this one day to the other. The value I see from what I've been hearing here is that let's try to open a door to a different solution. And then, it's like when you do research. You don't know if you're going to get there, you don't know when you're going to get there, or how you're going to get there. But you think that what you're doing is worth trying to see if there's another way to do it. Huh?
My question is,
No. How? He will answer to that question.
I mean, on your experience on this.
Well, I don't have the answers of all the questions, but I just believe the world is a sum of local places, so it's working on a local scale, it's working on a global scale.
No, right.
Maybe I can try a different answer. I think the local currencies, you don't have to take it as I would say the contrary. You don't have to take it as a global answer. They are not made, these experimentations are not made to bring the absolute answer. What they are for, instead, is more about being conscious of what is money and bringing back on the table people from the neighborhood, for instance, and have a discussion on if we were to build a currency between ourselves, money system, how would it function? How would it work? What would be the values behind it? And then of course there's all the argument of if you do that locally, how does it work with the system, with the taxation? But no, that's not the point. We are talking about doing it locally. And we're doing it for the purpose of for the love of it, not just because we are thinking we are going to reinvent the world, but also because we think that we can all here in this room think about it. It's possible. We are all humans. We all have a brain. We can figure out how to make a monetary system that will be better for ourselves. I think that's the point with the local currency. It's more about taking back the power of citizens and the system. at the local level.
I'm changing the subject. So then I'm going back probably to the main one because it's sort of a parallel way. So one obvious question when we compare basic income to other forms of welfare is to say, so as long as we understand these as, you know, unconditional income, we just give it to everybody, no question asked. Why instead not using all the money that goes to people, no question asked, the people who are not the needy, but the other ones? The ones just get it because, you know, no question asked, no question asked. Why not using that money to improve all the nice things we could improve in welfare, to improve the healthcare system, which seems to be the sort of thing that you can always improve. There's always, you know, one more cure that you can give and you can give to one more person. You can always build a larger hospital with more bedsides. You can always hire one more doctor. You can always pay to the pharmaceutical companies more medicines or education. We can always improve that. Is there a limit? So, given that some people are able to contribute, and with a basic income they get the money, no question asked, isn't that, well, it's not a question of feasibility, it's a question of morality. It doesn't make more sense morally to use that money for those other purposes.
You know, I don't know shit about moral because I don't like moral. I don't like people telling me what is good or wrong. I prefer ethics. But that's the parenthesis, you know. But I'm just skeptical when it comes to moral. But anyway, to come back to the question, and in the specific example of welfare and healthcare, okay, we could effectively hire more doctors and have more subsidies for the hospitals so that we cure people who are sick. But why don't we first ask why are people so sick? Why are they so depressed? And you know, we all know the answer. Most of the answer is because people feel bad at work. They get stressed because of high pressure. They get stressed because of working conditions that are really indecent in terms of working hours in many different ways. And basically, and I think the most important reason is that people are doing things that are useless. They are doing things that doesn't make any sense at the other level of just I'm working because I'm getting paid and that makes my family live. So I don't know about moral, but I know that in a very pragmatic way, we could, instead of curing the people afterwards, we could have a system where they don't get sick at first, in many cases.
I have a question related to this. Yeah, just a small question.
Everybody here knows what basic income apparently, and I hope everybody knows what is the European initiative. But if someone doesn't know what the European initiative is, there's a laptop over there, and it's open on the webpage where you can read about it and sign. So if anyone has not signed yet the European initiative for basic income, please.
Yeah, what was it? Yeah. It's the objection that I asked for. Because actually we know that if we target money to help poor people, actually poor people don't help themselves. They're like trapped in being poor and not having sufficient autonomy to make good choices about how to come with their lives. And that is one of the reasons why the welfare state is not working. We spend
more and more money to help the poor. And the poor don't help themselves. So, well, that's a problem with the welfare state. And that could still be a problem with the basic income. If we only give money to the poor and no questions asked, would they be any better? I doubt it. Sociology and empirical studies show that it is not the case. They just spend their money in a stupid way. So, what is your reply to that?
First, I'm not sure I agree, because in some experiments with the basic income we have seen the opposite. For instance, in the case of the Namibia experiment, so there was a village in Namibia, Africa, where they actually implemented the basic income. And yeah, at first they noticed some case of behavior that people would, when they get the basic income, they would go to the bar and get drunk. But what we realized a couple of weeks later is that people actually self-organize, and they had a committee, and they went to the bartender and they asked him, would you please close that day so that the people who don't know how to deal with their money, they don't waste it on the very day they get it. So, and this brings the point, which is, to my opinion, there's something behind, beyond. When he talks about basic income, it's not just about money. Money is not just a portion of power to buy things. It's most of all a cultural impulse, a change in how it's breaking the scarcity of money. You know, we live in a system where we are constrained by the money because we are always afraid of, will I get the same amount of money the next month? What if I get fired? What if I lose my job? What, you know? And with the basic income, this is another thing, because we break this and we say, whatever happens, you will still get this. And like a cat will always fall on your face. And this changed many things, not only on the economic behavior, but also on the sociological behaviors. And I truly think that, okay, I'm not dreaming. I'm not saying that everyone will change their lifestyles overnight. But I think that the people who have the good behaviors, they will have even more opportunities to develop these good behaviors, to act as citizens, and to do their best so that bad behaviors don't happen. But we cannot ensure that. I mean, basic income is not a panacea. It's not like an idea that will be like a miracle and will solve all the issues. After all, it all depends on what we do with our basic income. With my basic income, will I help my neighbors, or will I just spend my money and that's it? You know, that's the question we should all ask ourselves.
Anyway, you raised a good point. For basic income to work, you really have to be hands-off. It has to be automatic. So the poor, or someone who gets it, doesn't feel diminished for it. But there is at least one suggestion of how to implement an automatic transfer rate that doesn't waste money on already rich people, which is the negative tax, income tax, which basically you only get it at the end of the year, at least in most implementations, but at the end of the year everybody does their IRS, and if they got less than 12 times the basic income, then instead of paying taxes they receive half that amount. It's automatic, so people don't feel bad about it, and you don't waste money transfers to those who have some income that is higher than the basic income. Negative income tax. It's the internet without it.
I just wanted to mention one thing. I have to tell you some more things about the European campaign. So I just wanted to maybe take some more questions, and I could make a final statement on the European campaign, and maybe you can just at the end have an informal discussion, because I think there are many cross conversations that we could.
You are doing a lot of input here. I have questions to you. First, could you money as a value, and to bank, is money expensive or is money cheap? It means, do you realize that banks in lending money on a certain rate is in fact investing? It's a business. Banks are not meant to be social welfare or whatever. So it's a business. Is money expensive or is money cheap? Free. It's free. One.
The bank comes to create the money?
I mean, the bank doesn't print money and suddenly there is money in the bank. The bank is the construction, with values, based on credit, and investments, and businesses, and money costs money. And if this is paid in Portugal, the government money, it has to go outside to lend money. It's called a credit, interest that the country has to pay. So how does it function in your idea?
Well, if you ask me, is money cheap or expensive? I need to ask you for who? And I have my own answer directly. If you talk about the people, the money is expensive for them. Because, you know, if you have if your balance is below zero, you pay a high interest, you pay fines for being indebted. But for a bank to get indebted, it was the cheapest ever, because they can go directly to the central bank, which controls the interest. And if ever you have a problem, a problem for a bank is like this, and for you this, but if ever your bank is about to fail, to go bankrupt, and to lose everyone with the money in the end, the central bank will still lend you money at 1%, just because otherwise it's a big mess for everyone. So what I'm saying is that when you look at the interest rates, for a bank, it could be like 1%. For a big corporation, a firm, multinational, it's like 3. Then if you go to a small business, it's 4 or 5. And when you go to a normal citizen like me, it's 6, 7. So obviously the money is cheaper. The bigger you are, the cheaper. And the smaller you are, the more expensive. And that's the problem. I mean, this system, in the end, the conclusion of it is that it's so asymmetric. Asymmetric, you understand it? It's like we are not at the same level. There's a hierarchy in it. And money, which is supposed to be, as we said before, a means of exchange, you know, just supposed to facilitate the exchange with each other. But money is actually distorting the society because it's putting some people on a higher scale than others. Money is not neutral. There are many economies that pretend that money and banks are neutral in the system. Not. Absolutely not. And there's actually a counter movement of economies that saying it's not. But it's new. It's a new consideration that is finally emerging that no, money is not neutral to society. Money is actually distorting society.
Go on. You said he was just going to say one more thing and then finish up on. Please talk about the.
I think that Monica here has a point. Why? We all are here to think about what could be done better. But think, as I understand, sustainability is based on 3 pillars: social, environmental, and economic. So if we're going to change something, we have to be sustainable in time. Otherwise, for me, it's masturbation. or you produce something and then it's going to die. So if you're really deeply convinced that in order to do a change, it has to be sustainable. Okay, not a revolution for 20 years. And the economic factor is as important, I think, as environmental or the social one. Because if the economic factor does not work, this is a bit pandemonium again. So what she says, okay, that banks are investing, she's got a point. Maybe things should be different, but the economic factor for me is as important as the environmental or the social one. That is the first thing. The last thing, I give the microphone to somebody else, is that giving money to someone who did nothing for the money. Sitting there, and then, no question asked, get the money. I have two points on this. First of all, dignity. Where's the dignity? The fisherman who wakes up at 5 in the morning, works until 10 at night, he earns that money. Tiene una dignidad. And dignity, I think it's very important for the human being. And second, I don't think, personally, to give money. I think that if we're going to change, what we should do is give opportunity. The one who wants, the person who wants it, make it in such a way that he can make the change happen, and not depend on a big state like this.
Two small details. Just remind me why negative income tax is not that great. It's because of that thing of the dignity. Those who work really hard don't get as much benefit as those who work not too so much. So a basic income is
What do you know? Yes, how do you know?
the example of the fisherman.
Yes.
How can you compare?
Where just with the basic income, the fisherman gets more than the one who stayed at home.
Oh, the fisherman gets the basic income also.
Because he gets the basic income also. That's better than the negative income tax where the fisherman will not get the basic income. Because he got enough from fishing. And the other thing I don't remember anymore, so.
I'm a savage. Yes, no. What you hear is his answer. You are hard pressed by you.
I just want to say why do we need inflation? Why inflation is good? If we define inflation as a general increase in the price of goods, we need it because if prices don't rise of goods, people will save money instead of spending. And if you don't spend, it's in the act of spending that the economy works. It's when money passes from someone to someone else that something is done, not when they save money. So you always need inflation, a little bit, not much. But you always need inflation for people. Instead, everyone save money. That's why you need an inflationary monetary system. You have like Bitcoin, where you have an inflationary monetary system. And those that have money don't spend it. Spend it because they know if you save it, prices will decrease later, and they will spend it later. You know, you always need. It's like that's economic. You need an inflationary monetary system if you have money. If you choose not to have money, you don't.
I just remember what I wanted to say about it. It's a good point about the three pillars. Society rests on the economic health, societal health, and the environmental health. And if you spend everything you earn, the environmental pillar suffers.
No.
Wait. And in the economic pillar?
You're mixing things.
No, not really. But it's very, let me just, it's very good. 45 seconds. For the banks are a business, And there are very interesting banks out there. The Triudus Bank, and in Spain there's another bank, the ethical banks, where you know exactly
How many rules and stuff.
that one, yeah. So, yeah, the economic sector needs to prosper as well, and that's, at least those banks, those kinds of banks, may be a solution. Awesome. Who else?
I have one question.
So he hasn't also
So just a remark on inflation again. In an ideal, as an economist, and in an ideal world, the idea of money is that you have as much money as production, as wealth. But there are many problems with that conception. That first, you don't know how to measure wealth. We use GDP, but GDP is bullshit. We all know that. If you pollute a river, and then you have companies that depollute the river, you are making GDP. You are producing GDP, right? Just because you have transactions with money, which increase the overall amount of transactions. It doesn't mean anything. But coming back to inflation, okay. The idea is that if you have an increase of money with an increase of production, then you have inflation. Okay, because you have more demand with fewer goods, or not more goods. Okay? But the thing is, we know how to measure money. We can know how many bills and notes are in circulation, but we don't know exactly how many goods and services are in circulation, because not all these goods and services are being monetized. And then comes the question of, what if some goods are produced for free? What if, and that's what I'm doing almost every day, what if I'm working as a journalist producing information for free? Then
Jourdan is rich.
Then I'm making the world richer, but the GDP weaker. But still, in an inflation system, you would have some sort of inflation, because maybe I'm working, instead of being paid, I'm working for free. And then there is some less money in the system, because I'm not getting paid, I'm not making money circulate.
So your point is, we can have basic income from today if we are the guys telling Crowley what to do and just printing the money, giving everybody who needs it.
Yeah.
And that will not cause problematic inflation as long as it is a stimulus for people to engage in activities that are socially productive and powerful.
I'm glad to say.
Okay. So the point
Yeah, more or less.
you're kind of
In my own words, if I may.
Let me finish.
Okay.
So there's there's this optimist kind of anthropology at stake. You say, well, people are not going to stay there and say, cool, no question asked, give me a beer. But they're going to do something more productive. It's very, is this the point?
Yeah, it's part of the point. The first part of the point is to first enlarge our conception of wealth, because we are actually unmonetizing wealth that already exists. We are talking earlier about, I don't remember, but about the moral issue. Is it bad to give money to everyone? Yeah, you said moral because I'm taking the direction that I'm listening. That's moral. But I mean, to them. But anyway, so the first answer is also saying, I didn't mention it, but it's just saying, you give money to the people because they are producing money, they are producing wealth, even though they are not work. They are. Because if you look at the banking system again, but another point of view, 20 years ago, you would go to a bank, you would go to the cashier to ask them to do a cash transfer to your family, for instance. Now you are doing it yourself from the website. You are doing the job of the banker, you know. And there are many other examples. If you talk about Facebook again, you are working for Facebook every day just by updating your status, by talking on the chat, and by liking status. You are working for Google because with that they get big data, big database, and they can target advertisement and get money from that. If you are living in UK, when you take the metro, you are working for the CCTV. So just by accepting, not even on your, you don't have the choice, but you are actually being screened, being what that how you say feelings, yeah, and that way they have some sort of security or something. So we are making many things not meant by working, just by living. We are doing things that produce value. We are having a nice discussion right now. I won't ask you 10 euros afterwards because we're next, yeah. So I don't know what is the point, but just there's so many economic contributions that we just cannot even calculate, and we don't know who exactly are producing this. And coming back to the question of inflation and so on, the question about will basic income create inflation? The question is also about will people, as you said, keep on doing stuff, useful stuff? And I believe they do because they're already doing.
Okay. She wants to say something. What is your name?
Miriam. So actually I believe all these things are I want to believe all these things that also our mentality changes with the basic income, and so we kind of become the people that have basic income. We become more social, and we have other values, because the values we have nowadays, all these competitive values, are kind of made by the system. So actually, I don't know, I feel like also just something I can believe or not. Like, it's a bit like we haven't tested it yet. And so I'm more thinking about what could actually happen to, so we think basic income is so social, but what would happen if we do it? Like, I don't know, Portugal is a pioneer country. Wouldn't there a lot of immigrants come? And you know, it's really rational maybe, but how would we start? Because then everybody would come to Portugal, and well, we would be not so social anymore, because we would try to get the immigrants out to get the basic income ourselves. So yeah, it's really hard to start. It's like always when you want to change, you have to change the whole world at the same time. And if not, we will not be social anymore.
You already said it, and I already said it. We don't need to believe that people will work and will do stuff for society, because they do in the studies that already were done in Canada, in Brazil, India, Indonesia, we didn't know it. And if anyone is interested in those particular studies, the website has links to everything. So, yay! Yes, it will! The people will not be sitting at home.
Monica wants to say something.
No, I want to ask a question.
You ask us.
How can you...
Always ask, they don't answer.
I'm an answer. I'm questioning. I'm searching. I'm exploring. And I don't have answers. I'm sorry. Not yet. Maybe I won't ever. It's like it's an ongoing process, and I think it's extremely important to ask questions and maybe. Okay. I don't know his name. What's your name? Stanislas. Tell me something. Do you conceive comparing cultures? Like you were giving an example of the media, and this media compares, how do you say that? Comparable to Europe? Is Europe comparable to Asia? What is comparable mean? Is there a possibility to establish the basic grounds so that things get comparable at all? Second, I need to tell you this. What about the very basic and ontological movement of competitiveness? I don't mean competitiveness in an abstract sense that you are competing against, I don't know, your colleague. I need to give a hint so that you can climb up. But what about the skills? What about the very basic instinct of survival? which I think we didn't overcome yet. I mean, how is it for a male, as an example, to compete against a female, as an example? I'm just giving very basic, stupid examples because that's what happens in reality all the time, like women being underpaid compared to male colleagues that do the same work and so on. And it's like, it's the first question. If you take people who study and people who don't study, the distribution of value, I think, is something very interesting, not only on a money basis, but on a cultural and a social basis. And it's something that it's inherent to us. It comes from prehistoric times, it comes to be a hierarchy. Any single animal has a hierarchy, in fact. Dogs have a hierarchy, wolves have a hierarchy, apes have a hierarchy, we have a hierarchy. And I would like to understand how you see, on an evolutionary basis, how you could just skip that, you know?
50 seconds. Bonobos are one example of animals that actually cooperate instead of competing for food, because they are in that environment that allows them to do that. And there's one research study by Robert Merrill. If you know it, then how you're asking that? Baboons are usually very competitive and have a very harsh hierarchy. And in this study, there was transformation. So if they can't be horizontally organized, why can't we? I must apologize, but we at least must start moving outside. Yeah.
We have to end this session, but we can keep the conversation outside. But for today, it's over. I thank you for your time, for your presence. And to the others who are followers over the internet, acabamos a sessão e abrimos o discurso. Até à próxima e muito obrigado. Thank you very much.